Hi YouTubers, welcome to a new series. This is the 5-minute Revelation study. Now, before we even start talking about the book of Revelation as such, it's very important to consider Daniel's 70 weeks. There is a prevailing view amongst most Christians which is called Futureism, which actually is based upon the idea that Daniel's 70th week is cut off from this particular prophecy and it is thrown into the future. So before we even get to the book of Revelation, it's worth looking at Daniel's 70 weeks. Is this a prophecy which belongs together, or should it be chopped up with a pair of scissors and the end thrown away? Is this a prophecy about Jesus, or is it half a prophecy about Jesus and half about some Antichrist in the future? Well, let's have a very quick look at Daniel's 70 weeks. You should really read Daniel 9:24 to 27, which speaks about this particular prophecy. So when Daniel was in Persia, he was concerned about Jerusalem, which had been destroyed by the Babylonians. And he knew that there would be 70 years of captivity. And during that time, he received this fantastic prophecy. This prophecy is known as 70 weeks, but it's actually 70 times 7 years, which is a period of 490 years. So he was told that at the beginning of this 490 year period, following that, certain things would happen. So it was going to be 490 years, known as the times of the Jews, or time of the Jews. During this time, Jerusalem would be rebuilt and restored. During this time, there would be an end of sins. So atonement would be made for sins. Everlasting righteousness would be brought in. Vision and prophecy would be sealed up, and the Messiah would be anointed. So in other words, the Messiah would actually come onto the scene in Israel at the end of the 69 weeks, as it turns out. So this 490-year prophecy began in 457 BC, when King Artaxerxes of Persia commanded that Jerusalem could be rebuilt and restored. You can read about this in Ezra 7, verses 12 to 13. So the clock starts at 457 BC. Now, 49 years later, we reach the first stage in the prophecy, which was about 408 BC. So at that time, the wall of Jerusalem was rebuilt, and you can read about that in the book of Nehemiah. They were busy repairing the city as well. So Gabriel, the angel, said that 7 weeks plus 62 weeks later, Messiah would be anointed. So imagine that. They could actually calculate when the Messiah was actually coming to minister and fulfill all the conditions of this prophecy. So in 27 AD, which is 49 years plus 434 years, that's 69 times 7, 483, Jesus was actually anointed by John the Baptist, and he began his ministry. So what most Christians like to do at this point is just chop the 70th week off on the right hand side and just make that not about Jesus at all. But Jesus has not fulfilled all the conditions of that prophecy. So if this prophecy is about Jesus, all 70 weeks, which I believe it is, then what happens in the last week of the prophecy? Well, during the first half, we have Jesus ministering, as you can read about in the Gospels. In the middle of that 70th week, Jesus is cut off. So in 31 AD, he is crucified on the cross. So what does he do when he's being crucified on the cross? Well, he is confirming the new covenant. He is the sacrifice. So he's actually bringing an end to sacrifice and offering. This is not something an Antichrist has to do. This is something that Jesus did for us. He brought an end to sacrifice and offering. And he brought in everlasting righteousness. Our justification depended upon his sinless life and death on our behalf. So after Jesus died, there was still a period of 3.5 years up until 34 AD. So the Jews were still being ministered to by the apostles. What happened in 34 AD? Well, the stoning of Stephen. And that was pretty much the end of the times of the Jews. And at that point, the gospel really went out to the Gentiles. So God gave the Jews those amazing 490 years, and he fulfilled all those conditions through Messiah. Now, this prophecy also goes on further to say that there's also the people of the prince. So as a result of the Jewish rejection of Messiah, there's another prince called Titus who came in and he destroyed the city and the sanctuary, the temple, and he set up an abomination of desolation in that holy place. So there's a chiastic structure at the end there, speaking of Messiah, of this other prince, Messiah, and this other prince. So I haven't gone into any detail on what he did, but that was in AD 70. After this time period, as a consequence, the Roman general Titus came in and destroyed the city, ripped the temple apart, and that was a big blow for the Jewish nation. So when you think of Daniel's 70 weeks, just think about it. Is this a prophecy about Messiah? All these wonderful things, especially the things that happened during the 70th week, is that about Messiah, or is that about the Antichrist? Well, I believe it is about Messiah. And if it is about Messiah, then Futureism's way of understanding the book of Revelation is wrong. So the futurist looks for a treaty being confirmed with the Jews, and then 3.5 years later, the Antichrist messing that up and making an image of himself, putting that in the temple, stopping the sacrificial system, and yeah, that's what they do. But I believe that is a wrong use of this Daniel 70 weeks. And it is the basis for that whole understanding. So if you're looking for a 7-year treaty with Israel and an Antichrist to confirm that treaty, and then halfway through that 7-year period go against his word, I think you're going to be waiting for a long time. But if you see this as a prophecy that is already fulfilled and a marvelous prophecy about Messiah, then you can look at Revelation with different spectacles on. And I'm going to be presenting the historicist approach to the book of Revelation. Well, have a good day. God bless you.